2, and we'll start our February 27th, 2019 board meeting. Lisa, would you call for the roll call, please?
Anna Raynor, Ben Owens,
Present.
Tori Anderson,
Present.
Joshua Judd,
Present.
Patty Cottrell.
All right, very good. Thank you, Lisa. Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Miller, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Sure. Oh, that's fine, wherever.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're on to adoption of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
I motion to approve as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Lisa?
Joshua Judd,
Aye.
Tori Anderson,
Yes.
Ben Owens.
Aye. Very good. Call to the public, and I've got one blue card here from Desert Wind Performing Arts.
Hello everyone, I'd like to thank you out for coming today, and my name is Vincent Botafuco. I am a student of the Desert Wind Performing Arts program. I am a percussionist in symphonic band. This is my second year in band, and I am the officer of the Desert Wind Performing Arts Club. And I wanted to share some things about our brand new music room that we've just recently had built. I like that we have a bit more space to perform and practice for our next concerts, performances. And something that's made class easier with it is the percussionists. They have a lot more space in the back for all of our gear to practice and rehearse. And an improvement from the old room is that we have a lot more storage space and room to perform. And yeah, and I'd just like to thank you guys for supporting us for our new programs and for building this amazing space for us to practice in. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bella Ebner, and I'm a student at Desert Wind. I play tenor saxophone, and this is my fourth year in band. I am the president of the Desert Wind Performing Arts Club, and I wanted to share about Symphonic Band's Abota Festival at Mountain Point High School on Tuesday, February 26th, which was yesterday. Symphonic Band is made up of students who have been in band for like 2, 3, or 4 years. Symphonic Band received an excellent from all 3 judges, and it was praised by our judges for our interesting musical storylines and our ensemble work with characteristic sound, balance, and blend. During the clinic portion, Symphonic Band received feedback from Nathan Johnson, the Fine Arts Coordinator for Scottsdale Unified School District, on how to continue our musical growth. This was an amazing learning opportunity. I love that we got to go and perform for other bands, too, so we got to see other students walking in and out, so that was kind of cool. And we were excited to carry on the tradition of excellence in the Desert Wind Performing Arts. Thank you for supporting our programs by providing us with great learning opportunities.
My name is Ariana Cox, and I am a student at Desert Wind. I play the clarinet, and this is my 3rd year in band. I am the secretary of the Desert Wind Performing Arts. I want to share about the orchestra's performance at Boda Festival today at Queen Creek High School. Orchestra is made up of students who started orchestra this year or have been in orchestra for 2 or 3 years, and they got an excellent overall at their festival. They were praised by the judges for fun, energetic performances that featured their excellent foundational skills through a variety of repertoire. One judge remarked that it is clear the director and students are dedicated and invested in each other and their success. During the clinic portion, orchestra received feedback from Anita Archer and experienced strings with specific for strings. This was a great learning opportunity. We were excited to carry on the tradition of excellence in Desert Wind Performing Arts. Thank you for supporting our programs by providing us great learning opportunities.
Hi, my name is Layla Bennett, and I'm a student at Desert Wind. I play the trumpet, and this is my second year in band. I am Desert Wind's vice president of the Desert Wind Performing Arts Club. I want to share about the upcoming Desert Wind Performing Arts Instrumental Music Spring Festival at the Maricopa High School Performing Arts Center. The concert will start at 7 o'clock p.m. and feature orchestra from their Aboto Festival, symphonic band performing their Aboto Festival, and Tiger Band performing their first full concert. The concert will close with a combined performance by Symphonic Band and Tiger Band. Thank you for supporting our programs, and we hope to see you there.
Nice job, students. Thank you. All right, superintendent's report. Dr. Lopman.
Thank you, Mr. Owens, Vice President Owens. On Saturday, February 16th, Maricopa High School Graphic Design took 13 students to the regional competition for Skills USA. We are proud to announce that the students brought home 6 gold medals for their work and presentations in their contest areas. Seniors Caitlin Daly and Bleisha Romo and sophomore Annabelle Daly earned gold medals for their upcoming community service project, Art for the Heart, in April. The project is an upcoming festival to not only bring artists, art lovers, and our community together, but to also raise money for the American Heart Association. Seniors Lee Freitas, Jasmine Rios, and Sarah Snurch also earned gold medals for their Career Pathways Showcase presentation. The project focused on groundbreaking ideas the graphic design industry could develop in order to become more attainable to future designers with disabilities, so all have the ability to digitally create. Congratulations to these young innovators. Maricopa Wells and Desert Wind student films premiered at the 3rd annual Copa Shorts Film Festival last Saturday. The festival was held at Maricopa High School's Performing Arts Center and showcased films created by middle school, high school, and college students, as well as industry professionals. 7 student films were selected and premiered at the festival. Copa Shorts hosted an award ceremony and wrap party. We're proud to announce the following awards were earned by MUSD students and staff. Excellence in Filmmaking went to Caden Rogers at Maricopa High School. Audience Choice Award for Kindness Equals Calm by Caden Rogers, Zoe Zimpelman, Rory Gosiak, Aubrey Pick, Thomas Abel, and Joseph Abel. And 2019 Filmmaking Educator went to Desert Wind Middle School teacher Joe Soltizik. The Copa Shorts Film Fest is organized and presented by Shelley and Roger Gillespie. This year, the Maricopa High School DECA assisted the Gillespies with organizing and facilitating the event. The Maricopa High School Film Club was also well represented, with several members in attendance. A good time was had by all. And I think we have some of our film creators in the audience. Am I correct? Can we have you stand so we may applaud you? So, getting ready for the Oscars, I mean, we just watched those, so we'll look for you in a couple years. On Saturday, February 23rd, the Maricopa High School GEMS Winter Guard performed in their second competition show of their season. They earned second place in their class in the equipment caption area. This amazing group of students is continuing to give their best performances and is breaking new ground for MHS. They will perform again this Saturday, March 2nd, in the WGAZ Guard Focus Show. Good luck, GEMS. We'll be rooting for you. Finally, we have the Maricopa Unified School District hosting a partners luncheon on Friday, March 1st. That's this Friday. Business, faith, and community leaders will collaborate and share opportunities to support our students and families within the community. We hope you all can join us. And that's it.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Lopman. All right, governing board member reports. Mrs. Anderson.
Okay. Thank you, Vice President. I just Real quick, I did attend City Council meeting last week and talk about my DC trip and the advocacy and the meetings that we had attended with our different representatives. So I did report to City Council on that. Monday, I attended the High School Honors Award. Actually, it was Tuesday, the High School Honors Awards. It's always good to see our students and all the awards they get and how we are truly a district of excellence. Friday, I will be at the partner lunch at 11:30. And this Saturday is my fundraiser for my Women and Children's Shelter. That's all I got.
Just getting over an illness, so tonight was, I knew that we'd be shorthanded otherwise, but I did, in the time that I had available to me, I wasn't attending any events, but was doing some research on what's going to be affecting us as a district upcoming, and that's in terms of construction costs, and the significant increase around the country in construction costs went to the I believe it was the Association of General Contractors website, showed a 7.4% increase in general construction costs from 2017 to 2018. So it's something that the public should be aware of, and it's what we're going to be working on in terms of this new high school. Some of the figures may sound higher than what you're used to, but it's because that's a nationwide issue. Construction costs are increasing. So I was using my sick time well, but thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. And I would like to recognize Vice President, Council Member Henry Wade in the audience here.
Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor, there you go. There you go. So thank you for being here. Let's see here. Last Thursday, I was able to join Mr. Wagner and his symphonic band students in their new room as they practiced for the Eboda. That short little preview that I got, I'll tell you what, I can't wait to hear this tomorrow after they've had a little bit more time to play and really polish it up. I was blown away. And I also on Friday will be attending the Partners Luncheon. Looking forward to that. So that's all that I've got. Let's see here. We are on to Rotary Students of the Month. I'd like to invite Alma Farrell and Jim Irving.
As we've been, I don't think this is on.
You have to hold it real close to your mouth.
Hello? Did you hear? Okay.
I think you're good.
Okay. I have been asked to introduce myself as I'm the Alma Farrell, and I'm the student coordinator for Rotary Club for our students in Maricopa. And this is Jim Irving. He's the president of Rotary at this time. I would like to thank Dr. Loban and all of you board members for allowing us to do this. This has been a true honor for the past several years for you to allow us to recognize the students in our community. What we do as Rotarians is we have a four-way test of the things we think, say, or do are: is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? I'm emphasizing the value of this four-way test because it's for the students to think about this four-way test, because when we have our scholarship presentation that we give to you in May, early May, you have an opportunity to apply for it, and then we choose one 8th grader at each middle school, and we choose anywhere from 2 to 3 high school students with scholarships. So please look at the four-way test and value what it is. I would also like to thank the following people. I would like to thank Brianna McVeigh, our high school student, and her parents for being here, and our Cavett students, Ryan Learman, Chance Fruitney, and Levi Scholes and their parents for being here. And the Desert Winds Middle School, Caitlin Owens and her parents. And the Maricopa Wells Middle School student Zoe for the great things that you do, and your parents also. I'd also like to thank the staff who helps these students to do their very best so that they can be recognized. I'd like to thank Danielle Byers, Thad Miller, Bernadette Rusinello, Wanda Lubig, Mrs. Hull, Mr. Wagner, Ms. Turek, Ms. Titus, and Mr. Glover. Thank you, all of you educators, for helping our students get where they're at. I'll start with the first student to be recognized, and I would like to ask Zoe if she could come forward. As you've already heard, she's on her aspiring actress maybe someday. But she's a Maricopa Wells Middle School 8th grader, and she was selected by the staff and administration at Maricopa Wells to be the January Rotary Student of the Month. Mr. Miller reports that she's an excellent example for all students at Maricopa Wells, and she can always be trusted to make the right choice. Her grades are always straight A's, and she's in algebra and ELA classes. Rotary is told she's active in the National Junior Honor Society, and she is their president. She's in band and after-school clubs also. Her behavior is what Maricopa Wells strives for, and they are all proud to have her at Maricopa Wells. She is a true leader in academics and behavior. She's a great example of what a Maricopa Wells Panther should be. Congratulations, Zoe. I'd like to have Caitlin come forward now. Caitlin Owens is an 8th grader, and she's been selected by the staff and administration at Desert Winds Middle School to be the January Rotary Student of the Month. She was nominated by Mr. Wagner, Ms. Turek, and Ms. True. It is reported to Rotary that Katie is one of the most thoughtful and hardworking students they've had the pleasure to work with. She brings energy and a fine balance that can be hard for a middle school student to master with great work ethic and drive to do things. She's great at giving feedback for quick improvement. She has been part of the foundation of the Desert Winds Performing Arts programs. They say she's a wonderful model student and an extremely talented swimmer. She has participated in Future Cities, and her team made it to state last year. She's an incredible hard worker. She doesn't quit when things get hard. She digs deep and struggles through until she has complete understanding. She is kind, considerate, and always has a smile on her face. She's a joy to have in class and a true example of Tiger Pride. Congratulations. I'd like to have Brianna come forward. Brianna McVeigh is a Maricopa High School senior and selected by the staff and administration of Maricopa High School to be the January Student of the Month. Mrs. Rusinello nominated Brianna for this award. She reports that she's an outstanding campus leader and has been a role model and leading officer in the Air Force ROTC. Brianna was selected to be the Maricopa High School Girl State Delegate for Convention 2018. She's a great volunteer in the school and community, donating hundreds of hours of service to local food banks and community events. It's also reported to Rotary that she is a link leader helping to welcome and orient and involve new students, especially freshmen, to the Maricopa High School campus. Congratulations. Rianne, if you could come forward. Ryan Learman is the Cavett Student of the Month for November, And she is a Cabot Nursing Assistant 1 student and is on the honor roll with perfect attendance, with a career goal to earn her state nursing assistant certification and work in that area part-time, paying for her college. She's also involved with the Maricopa High School Link Crew, Student Council, volleyball, and track, and she's in AP honors classes, as well as being the Maricopa Community Church worship leader. Congratulations, Rayan. If I could have Chance come forward. Chance Fruity is a junior at Maricopa High School and has been selected by the staff and administration of Cabot to be the December Rotary Student of the Month. It is reported to Rotary that Chance is a Cabot Medical Assistant 1 student and on the honor roll with perfect attendance also. And he has a career goal to attend CAC and the U of A to become a paramedic and work towards getting a registered medical assistant industry certification and work part-time as a medical assistant to pay for his way through college. He is also an involved student at Maricopa High School, being involved in football and wrestling, where he will be the captain next year. Congratulations. If I could have Levi come forward. Levi is a junior at Maricopa High School and has been selected by the staff and administration of Cabot to be the January Rotary Student of the Month. It's reported to Rotary that Levi has a second-year veterinary assistant student at Cabot with a career goal to attend the U of A and work towards a bachelor's degree in veterinary technology. Rotary is told that he's an honor roll student with perfect attendance honors at Maricopa High School and a second-year honor roll with perfect attendance honors at Cabot. In his Cabot career is a college goal to receive National Veterinary Assistant Certification and work while attending CAC and Pima Community College's Veterinary Technician Program. He's also a great volunteer by assisting with the Maricopa Community Activity Food Bank and Church of Celebration. Congratulations, Levi. Thank you.
Pictures don't go in.
Don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So your daughter is like a miniature version of your wife? Yeah, they look exactly alike. Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, just so wonderful.
All right, thank you, Rotary, and students and parents, educators, thank you, congratulations. We're really, really proud of you. Proud that you're part of Maricopa here. All right. We are on to item 5B, job order contract procurement of temporary classrooms at MHS. Dr. Lopman, Mr. Rafferty, Mr. Brubaker.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. We are beginning a series of formalized information sessions and work studies regarding the project that is underway for additional classroom space at Maricopa High School. So in addition to Mr. Brubaker, Mr. Rafferty, and our representatives from our contractor, we also have Mr. Winter here as well for you to ask questions. So we have, I think, 3 particular items of direct relation to this project, and we are here to present information and details and for you to ask all the questions you need. And that presentation is not, we're not quite ready for this one. Is this yours, or was this Mr. LaValle's? That's what I thought.
On the screen.
Yeah. So this is Mark Rafferty from FMG, and that's Don Brubaker from One Architect. And take it away.
Members of the board, Dr. Lopman, thank you. Member Judd, that was a perfect lead-in for me to talk about job order contracting when you indicated that the general contractors conference that you attended indicated that there was a 7...
Just research. I don't want to...
You researched.
Over, yes.
It was like over 7% escalation over the period of a year. When we were doing the capital planning, or the capital committee meetings, and the capital master plan, we were using a 5% number, you might recall, and because I was told that, you know, anything less than 5% was malpractice in terms of capital planning. In the late or mid and late 90s, when there was a lot of growth in K-12, there were no alternatives to hard bidding projects. So that was a method called design, bid, build. And the result of that, because there was so much growth, and companies came in from out of state, and it was sort of, it was not a very great solution at the time, because there were a lot of change orders, a lot of disappointments, and the hard bid process really got a black eye in general because of some of those bad habits. As a result of that, the legislature developed several alternatives to hard bidding that allowed for more collaborative processes between the contractors and designers and owners. One of those, and it kept it from being hard bid. It was very open book and collaborative. One of those is job order contracting. Job order contracting at the time was set with a baseline of $1 million. That was in about 2000, 99, 2000, when the legislation passed. The baseline is still described in the statutes as $1 million. It is very routine for that. I'm kind of doing item C here first. It's very routine for school boards that have the statutory ability to raise that baseline to, you know, $2 or $2.5, $3, $4, $5 million. And the reason they do that is because that's the size that those small, complicated projects are these days. They're just not $1 million anymore. A good example of that is the temporary classroom project that we're currently working on at Maricopa High School. That project will absolutely exceed that, you know, 20-year-old baseline for job order contracting. So one of the things we want to talk about is raising that limit, but we also want to talk about, in this first case, why that is. So I'm going to let Don talk about the portable classroom projects at Maricopa High School.
Good evening, everyone. Members of the board, Dr. Lopman. As you know, we brought this project to you probably, I think it was a couple months ago, because of the urgency of needing classroom space at the high school. And with a short time frame, trying to meet a schedule and to really to solve a problem that is imminent, this process of being able to use the job order contracting process allows us to speed up the process too, remembering that we would be using a contractor that's already pre-qualified. They've already gone through the process with the state, and so it is someone that you have the ability to be able to contract with that's already been pre-qualified. And as was mentioned earlier, what $1 million used to buy 15, 20 years ago, it becomes very difficult to do that. And so that's why you're seeing districts going ahead and raising that to a more reasonable amount, so that we'd have the ability to be able to, in these tight time frames or a sense of urgency, we can keep moving forward. And the portables fit right into that mold. And so that's why we're bringing this to you. And it's really some housekeeping, if you will, to be able to give you the ability, not just for this project, but for future projects. As they come up, you have that choice to be able to select that process. You have raised an amount to a point where it gives you the ability to move forward quickly, again, with a pre-qualified contractor, and to be able to get that work done. So it works to your favor to be able to utilize this process and to be able to do this.
And I would also add that without the use of job order contracting, if this project had to be hard bid, it's very difficult to hard bid portable classrooms, but if you were to do that, it wouldn't be a summer of 2019 project. It'd be later. It would not be available for the fall of 2019. Any questions?
One real quick one. So, clarification. If it were just one portable, it would probably fit into that 1 million threshold, beginning contracting. But since we're doing 8 plus the restroom, it makes sense.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. That was a great information regarding the JOC increase, rationale, motivation, history, benefits. And that is item C on our agenda. We also have job order contract procurement of temporary classrooms at MHS. Are you going to move to that one now? If there are no further questions about the increase?
I'm sorry, Dr. Lopin.
The actual contract, maybe Jeremy or folks from Chase would be doing that?
Yeah, so good evening, members of the board, Dr. Lopman. So we're here tonight, we're in the middle of really this process, and we've been working with the team for over 3 months. Have to tip my hat to your staff. You've got a first-class staff here at the district, and they've been great to work with. So where we're at right now, we just finalized the plans for the actual project itself. Being that we're bringing in temporary classrooms, we have to bring utilities like fire lines to allow for sprinklers to be in those classrooms to be safe and to meet the city codes. Additionally, we're doing some concrete sidewalks as well as fire lane access in case of an emergency. We have the portable bathroom that has sewer and additional connections to it. So right now we're in the midst of basically compiling all that data. As Don and Mark had alluded to, we ultimately kind of become the service provider. We still offer the competition from the subcontractor and the vendor level, but we're in the midst of getting those bids. Right now, our initial estimates are looking around 2.2 to 2.3 million. And I wish I could really have a finer number to bring forward. However, we plan to do that, I believe, on the 14th. Is that the date? So I believe that's it. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer those. Again, I'm Jeremy with Chase, so if you need anything.
Okay, Jeremy, I do have a question.
Yeah.
So the roughly 2.1, 2.5, is that all the installation, the construction, that's everything?
Yeah, so that basically includes construction cost, which would be the grading, the utility work. Right. It would also include the 8 modular classrooms that would be leased for 36 months.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, we have another piece that would be dismantling and removing them off the site.
Oh, so that's also included in that total cost?
Correct, and that's, again, that's a preliminary estimate at this
Right.
point, but again, I feel it's important that you know kind of where we're at.
Okay. And is that all the utilities? That's the power too? Because I know we have to redo
Yeah.
the power boxes and stuff. Okay.
That's correct. You know, you don't really think about this when you do a classroom in a modular environment, but we not only have to do power, we have to do fire alarm, we have to do data,
Right.
intercom. Again, it has to be a fully functional classroom, just like it would be in a normal brick and mortar school.
Okay. And that's an official term, all that stuff, just so you know. Yeah.
So you said the demobbing is, the moving out is an additional cost on
No,
the back end?
it's covered with,
Correct.
Or is that included in this 2.2, 2.3?
included.
That is included in that
Oh, it
2.2,
is, okay.
2.3. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Just for absolute clarification, and we realize that this is just an estimate and things can change, but 2.2 to 2.3 million includes the lease for 3 years, construction, breakdown, removal, everything soup to nuts.
That is correct.
Thank you.
If you want a quick rundown, just some of the FF&E desk chairs, that kind of stuff wouldn't be in the number.
Right.
There are some things that we could get into greater detail, but you know, again, how much time do you have tonight? But yeah, we're happy to sit down and talk through that.
Appreciate it.
How about extension of that? Of that 36 months, if need be?
You know, it's certainly terms that we can sit down and discuss. Basically, being that we're at 36 months, we're getting a pretty favorable lease rate,
Yeah.
and I think we'd be more than happy to honor that moving forward.
Okay.
So we're open to that conversation and happy to make sure it's in the district's best interest.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Jeremy.
other questions?
I don't have any more.
Thank you.
I did actually have one more question for you, Jeremy, while we have you. We've exhausted all options in terms of purchase as opposed to the lease. You guys have seen the market, and it's not something doable within, because we discussed the possibility of purchase as opposed to lease, because we were looking at the prices, and it almost started looking like a purchase might be something that we could move forward with instead of the lease. But there's nothing that's available, I guess, within this time period.
The manufacturing market for portable classrooms was thriving, you know, in the 90s and in the early 2000s. But when the market receded, those companies stopped making portable classrooms. So your district and several others in Arizona are actually ahead of the portable supply market. We think it will probably return. It has to, in a hyper growth situation. So right now there aren't many manufacturers. They're long lead items. It could be done. I think that it could be done for the summer of 2020, but it couldn't be done for the summer of 2019.
Okay.
That's so yes and no, right?
You can call this luck, act of God, being in the right place at the right time. but I tell you, we're very fortunate to even be able to find available portables and ones that are in such great condition. So this is a real coup for the for the district. Setting aside whether lease or purchase, just being able to find something available to be able to take care of this need it's really incredible. I've never seen it like this, so it's great.
The only reason why I bring it up is because I know the continued growth for the district is going to, it's not something that's going to go away. So unfortunately, in 3 years, when we give these up, it's like we're giving up space that we had acquired, but only for a short period of time. So it might have been something valuable for us to purchase outright, but speed is a need. So it is what it is. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And Don, I have seen, sorry, Mr. Brubaker. I have seen pictures of the portables, and I am not a portable advocate, believe me. However, knowing that we are on a time constraint and that we have amazing students that need to continue to learn, they are in amazing condition. I mean, they almost look brand new.
Yes, they are.
So, and that's coming from someone who's not, knowing that we still have a couple portables at ground zero when you were here
That's correct.
20 years ago.
Those were amazing. In the other direction,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, they're a treasure, that's for sure.
Yes.
But these are, I mean, once you get inside, they really do look like a regular brick and mortar
That's
building.
right.
So thank you. I'm glad we found them. And I think it's a great solution for the time that we have. And I think the dollar amount is a valuable resource. I think it's good use of our dollars.
Can we move to the next item, or the plating, or whatever you'd like to?
That is my favorite
Okay.
subject.
It is your favorite?
Yes.
Would-
Plat consolidation.
Would you like me to address that one, Dr.
Please.
Lohman? I'll
Please,
be
Mr.
happy to do
Brubaker.
that. The discussion about platting or replatting, this is something that is that's in districts statewide, that a lot of sites that are either donated or purchased, a lot of older sites, you'll find that there are multiple plats on one site. For instance, your high school is actually on 4 pieces of property. 3 of them are very close to the same size. One piece is very small. One request that you normally run into when you work with cities and municipalities is that when you come in to process a permit and they recognize that you have multiple sites, they request that you come in and consolidate and make it one plat. And it really is to the advantage of the district, because now you're not dealing with multiple plats, tax numbers, all that kind of stuff. Now it just becomes one monolithic site, if you will. And so the request is not unusual, and a lot of districts will move in that direction. Well, talking with the city about what we were going to do with the portables, that request came from the city of Maricopa. Can you take a look at that? And it is a requirement. It's not a stipulation for getting the permit. They just asked, would you put that into process, so while you're doing the portables, you are also doing your due diligence on the lot consolidation, if you will. One thing that was able to work out with the city is there were some additional requirements that really was some monies that we didn't feel like that would be well spent from the district. And through your administration contacting the city and just having some open discussion, they agreed that that was something that really didn't have a value, that the district didn't need to spend that money, but still looking at doing at least a boundary survey which kind of pinpoints the perimeters, and then be able to come up with a new legal description. So that's what that is about, and really just it works well for you, and it also satisfies what the city like, because technically you have some buildings that are built across property lines, as you can imagine. And that is not uncommon throughout the state of Arizona and district. So that's what that's about.
So this platting consolidation will make that all one chunk?
That is correct.
Okay. Because I think that was originally platted when that was our elementary school, like a long time
100
ago,
years ago.
when I was in elementary school.
Oh,
Yes.
then just like 20.
Yeah.
Just like 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's probably why it's all chunked out?
Yes.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Brubaker and Mr. Rafferty. I also want to thank our board for asking those questions. We've been going over this information, but in the interest of transparency, that is what tonight is about. And you have revealed the circumstances of our situation with the explanation of Mr. Rafferty and Mr. Brubaker, the urgency, the good fortune, and the good support we have had from the professionals, and great partnership with the city of Maricopa, and a lot of other relationships that have allowed this to come together in a very favorable way for our students. And I personally think it's a sign of things to come. We believe, we are confident that it is going to work according to plan. Thank you for your leadership very much.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. We're on to 5E, and Dr. Lopman and Mr. Mike LaValle, revenue and tax implications.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Owens. I'd like to invite Mr. Mike LaValle from Stiefel to the podium to formally present the revenue and tax implications of a possible bond election. Some of you may remember Mr. LaValle from our capital planning committee, and he's happy to be here tonight in Maricopa.
Thank you, Dr. Lopman, members of the board. For the record, I'm Mike LaValle. I'm with Stiefel Nicholas. And by way of brief background, I've been working with Maricopa Unified School District for, gosh, I was thinking about it, writing my notes here, I think going back to 1997. So quite a tenure with you, about 23, 24 years. I started in the business in 1996. And so I've been working in Arizona along with my other bankers in my office, colleagues, some of them as long as 30 years. Our firm, our office here in Arizona of about a staff of 12 to 15, serves all of Arizona, local communities, school districts, fire districts, cities and towns, state agencies, universities, anybody who has a need for bond elections or selling bonds. And so I'm a K-12 specialist. I've had my career pretty much focused on K-12. I do a small amount of fire districts as well, including Maricopa Fire District before the city took them over. So I actually go way back with Maricopa Fire as well. And so I've worked with Maricopa Unified over the years on refinancing debt, replacing old debt with new debt at low rates, saving taxpayer dollars with previous bond elections. We've also helped, we have experts in-house to help with SFB, School Facilities Board, funding questions. Randy Stein is in our office. Previous to her was Judy Richardson, going back over the last several decades. We're working through the School Facilities Board to get new funding is very difficult, and even funding for fixing schools. And so we have experts on hand to help the district as well. This evening, as Dr. Lopeman mentioned, I'll be taking you through a presentation. If you have it, we passed it out. It's going to be here. It's up on the screen. Well, at least it's on my screen here. Let me see. Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm going to be taking you through it. It's pretty thick, and so, but I'm going to hopefully, I'm just going to suggest I'm not going to go through every page. Okay.
Thank you.
There's going to be yes, but I wanted to leave the data with you. So if you're having trouble sleeping at night, you can go. I'm just kidding. So when you need to refer to the data, you have it. Okay, and so I'm going to walk you through this. Bond elections. I always start off with the assessed valuation history of the district, because it's so important as it relates to everything related to bonding capacity and tax rate calculations. So the first slide, and for the audience, this is probably the best looking slide. The numbers are only going to, the font sizes are only going to get smaller and smaller, and I apologize. It's going to be very difficult to read after a few slides. But the 10-year look back here, and just to give you an idea where you started from in 2009-10, right before the recession hit, you can see the decline. This is very similar looking to every other fast-growing district in the state. You had a huge upswing before the recession, and then you had a downswing. And then, obviously, the last 5 years, you've had pretty solid growth. And that's what we're seeing in a lot of the fast-growing areas. The East Valleys, the West Valleys, all of Pinal County, some parts of Pima County. So this is pretty typical. We also have in 1920 your new number for next year. We just got this from Pinal County. That's the far right two bars. You'll see that you had the blue bar in 1920, you grew, that's the net full cash assessed value. You grew by almost 11%, 10.88%. That's a very healthy growth number. Now the blue bar is net full cash assessed value. That's for determining your bonding capacity. The capacity formula is driven off of the blue bar. The red bar, since 2015-16, after Prop 117, the red bar is what determines all of your tax rates, both primary and secondary, including bonds. And so the red bar is the limited property value. And the reason why it's called limited is it's restricted by formula to grow. And as an example, individual homeowners, if somebody's property value grew market value by 8% year over year, the tax value can only grow by 5%. So every property, existing homeowner, existing business, can only grow by tax value up to 5% a year, even if they grew at 10 or 7 or 12. It'll keep carrying over every year, but it will be capped at 5%. That does not include new construction. So new construction will hit the tax rolls in both the blue and the red at a higher value. It'll go from vacant property value, like $20,000 for a vacant lot, all the way up to $150,000 for that home or whatever the amount is. It's just that the very next year, it'll be capped at up to 5%. So the red is formula-driven. The blue is more reflective of what's going on in your economy. It's unrestricted. So the blue is for bonding capacity. The red is for tax rates. I'll also direct your attention to the top above the bar chart. We have some averages here: the 5-year average and the 10-year average. I'm going to real quick on the 10-year average. If you look at the one just with 18-19, does not include the 19-20 because that's still an estimate. It's not final until August of this year, and it's really the next fiscal year. So the 10-year look back, the 10-year historical growth average for your district is only 0.82%. It's that middle one there. That is 0.8. That is the 10-year average of all the red bars for tax rates. 0.82%. So you've been growing, but if you look right above it, the 5-year average, your growth in the limited property value has been over 5%, 5.34%. That's the disparity I really need to hone in on with you and discuss with you, because when you consider a bond election and you publish a voter pamphlet, so if you decide to go forward with a bond election, you call for a resolution, you adopt the resolution, we prepare a voter pamphlet working with staff, your lawyers, and all parties. Part of the information we put in there is a tax impact schedule. In order to come up with a tax impact schedule, we're allowed to project growth in assessed value. However, statute restricts us into what we can use to project that growth. And we're only allowed to project growth in assessed value using up to the 10-year historical growth average, which is 0.82%. You've been growing at a clip of 5.34% to 6.2% the last 5 years. Okay, so that's a big disparity. We're seeing this now because we've lopped off, like 10, 11 years ago, we've lopped off all the previously fast-growing amounts, and even though you're adding growth now, it's not making up for what you lopped off 11, 12 years ago. So your 10-year average is what will restrict you, and it'll produce in the voter pamphlet a tax rate impact for any of the bond sizes I'm going to show you, what I believe is artificially high. And so we're going to be showing you scenarios this evening, 2 scenarios for every scenario. We're going to be showing you $50 million, $75 million bond election, and then a $100 million bond election. 2 scenarios for each. And I'll show you that in just a minute, but it's really about this 10-year average. One will be what the voter pamphlet will restrict growth to and what the tax impact is because of that. And the other one will use 5% growth for 5 years, and then we'll drop it down to 3% thereafter, which is probably a more realistic growth rate average, looking at the 5-year average for your community. So I'm going to show you both. Okay, so I spent a little bit of time on that page. Let me go to your current bonding capacity. Bonding capacity, so your district has outstanding debt. You have about 31 million of outstanding principal of bonds. And the way we calculate bonding capacity is you take your district's net full cash assessed value, which is that blue bar. For the 18-19 fiscal year, it's 352 million and change. You're a unified district, you multiply that times 20%, you get to 70 million, 70.4 million. You subtract out the amount of debt you have outstanding that you haven't paid off just yet, 31 million. And so then you get a net capacity number just under 40 million, about 39 million, 39.2 million. That's your current bonding capacity. If you were going to be borrowing debt today, selling bonds today, you can't because you haven't had an election to do it, but if you were, this is how much you could borrow up to that amount. But your bonding capacity changes over time. And in your district, it's probably going to grow fairly quickly because it's based on growth and assessed value. And it's based on that larger blue bar, right? And that is unrestricted as to how it grows. So just to give you an example, on 7, we give you 3 columns here. On 7/119, the assessed value hasn't changed yet, but you've made a principal payment. As you pay off principal, you go from 31 million to 28 million. You made a principal payment. You regain some capacity. Then you go to 41.8 million of bonding capacity. And then every year on the 3rd Monday in August, I'm just labeling it 9/119, your assessed value changes. And you had 10.88% growth in your assessed value coming up for the 19-20 fiscal year, which will then give you 49.5 million, about $50 million of bonding capacity. So you went from $39 million today to, come September, almost $50 million in less than a year. And so your bonding capacity will grow as your assessed value grows and as you pay off old debt. So we're projecting that your bonding capacity could, over a 10-year period, because elections are good for 10 years, so you can ask the voters for $50 million or $100 million or $75 million. You sell those bonds down in chunks over time. You can sell bonds over a 10-year period before it expires. We estimate that your bonding capacity could be north of $100 million over a 10-year period, based on growth in assessed value and paying off principal. So that's your current bonding capacity, and then also into the future, we estimate it being more than $100 million. Okay, so I'm going to get into, like I mentioned previously, 3 major scenarios, and each scenario is 2 scenarios each: 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B. This page right here, I would ask you just kind of dog ear in your hard copy, and we'll be going back and forth between this page and the next scenarios. But we run a $50 million bond election size. That's 1A and 1B. We run a $75 million bond election size. That's 2A, 2B. And then a $100 million. That's 3A and 3B. The difference between the A's and the B's is in the third column over. It's in the assumption of the growth of assessed value going forward. Okay? And here's how you'll see a disparity between tax impact for each of these bond issues, bond election sizes. All the 1A, all the A scenarios, 1A, 2A, 3A, we're using what the voter pamphlet, the statutory restrictions of growth, which is that 10-year historical growth average, 0.82%. So 1920, we can use the number we got from the county. So you have 8.04% growth. Thankfully, we could use that. But then we're restricted to using the 10-year historical growth average for 5 years, which is only 0.82%. You just had 8%. We can only use 0.8% going forward for 5 years. And then after year 5, we have to drop it down per statute to 20% of that number. That's why you have some funky numbers here. 0.82% for 5 years. Thereafter, almost flat growth, 0.16, virtually none. And then so that's what this scenario, $50 million scenario, will produce in tax rates. All the B scenarios give what I would call a more, while it's probably still conservative, it's probably a more realistic, it's probably what I would pick for your voter pamphlet if I could. It's not outrageous. It's not above your 5-year average. You've recently had 8% growth. We picked 5% for 5 years, and then 3% thereafter for this community. And using those assessed value growth assumptions, it produces tax rate impacts for that $50, $75 million, and $100 million scenario. Let me talk about the tax impacts. So for the 1A, 2A, and 3A, again, voter pamphlet restricted, the $50 million scenario, 1A, produces an estimated average annual tax rate of 88 cents. That's per $100 of assessed value. To put that in terms of a homeowner, for a $100,000 tax value home, that's about, you just move the decimal over 2 places, 88 bucks. Okay? Now, that's what the voter pamphlet would, if you decide to call for an election for $50 million, the voter pamphlet would show data related to the $88 for a $100,000 home. However, the more realistic scenario for your community for $50 million, we calculate to be about 55 cents. That's using 5% growth for 5 years, and then 3% thereafter. 88 cents versus 55 cents, or 55 bucks a year, which equates to less than $5 a month, $4.62 a month. Okay, so now the $75 million scenario, likewise, obviously the A scenario, using voter pamphlet restricted values, $1.41 tax rate, or $141 a year, which was what would show up in the voter pamphlet. Likewise, using more realistic growth projections, it would actually be about 85 cents for 75 million annual impact, or $84 a year, or $7 a month. And then lastly, on the $100 million scenario, the estimated average annual tax rate impact using voter pamphlet restrictions, $1.86 or $185, $186 a year impact to the $100,000 home. However, again, using the 5% growth, we're at $1.12 or $112. You can see there's a big difference there, $185 to $112. So what does this mean? I mean, your voter, whatever amount that you decide to vote on, if you decide to go forward with a bond election, we're going to have to put in the 1A, 2A, or 3A, whatever the amount is. If it's 98 million, if it's 77 million, whatever amount you call for, we'll size it, but we're going to put in that 1A scenario into the voter pamphlet. Your message, though, to the community would likely be, okay, that voter pamphlet, we had to restrict the growth to hardly anything. We have less than 1% going forward. Our growth rate right now is over 5%. That's a huge difference. And this is the same problem, by the way, for anybody who's having a bond election in 2018, 2019, 2020. This is a problem for a lot of districts, especially the previously fast-growing districts like yours, Buckeye Elementary, okay? All the Buckeye areas, all the Queen Creek, all the East Valley areas, all Pinal County. So they all have this same issue for the next 3 election cycles because the 10-year average is so skewed to the ultra conservative right now that it actually there really is a difference and there really is an impact. So the message would be to the community, look, we know what the voter pamphlet says. We actually think we think the annual actual tax impact would be $1.12, not $1.86. So that comes up down to maybe the pro-bond committee or the committee that's formed to actually get the message out that we don't believe the tax impacts in the voter pamphlet will actually be the result. It'll actually be quite a bit lower. And here's the data.
Can I ask you a couple
Absolutely.
clarifications? So by law, we have to, in the voter pamphlet, talk about 1A. Here's what the state says it's going to be.
Yep.
Then we would explain, no, really, it's going to be 1B for these reasons, X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that makes sense. Frustrating, but it makes sense.
Right.
My next question is this tax, this bond tax, MUSD tax, is that listed on the tax bill as a primary or a secondary tax?
Secondary.
A
So
secondary tax.
the bond tax rate over anything voter authorized is on the secondary side,
Okay.
along with DSEG now.
Right, that's what I was saying, because we've got the DSEG.
DSEG
that
got
just
moved over
moved over.
recently, but that means your primary rate went down, right? Your primary goes down, your secondary goes up because of
Right.
the DSEG, correct?
Okay, so whatever the bond committee decides, they need to take into consideration that the DSEG is also listed, and so they need to take that amount into consideration.
Right.
If we choose to move
Your
forward.
overall combined tax rate, the DSEG should be an offset, the lower primary, higher secondary. So if you talk in terms of combined rate, it should have a very little effect. But yes, the secondary rate will be higher mainly because of that law change last year.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're trying to get it changed back, though.
Good.
Okay.
Yes. So every scenario I mentioned here on page 7, there's 6 of them here. This is the summary page. I show you the data behind every line here, 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B. Each of that data is 4 pages. Really one sizing, the footnotes to that sizing, the cost to the taxpayer, and then the footnotes. So you'll see 4 pages for each scenario. I'm not going to take you through every single one. But if I can, I'll walk you through the first one so you kind of understand how this flows, and then you'll be able to understand how every scenario it's virtually the same for every scenario. So I want to take you through in more detail scenario 1A and scenario 1B, and then the rest, and then I'm going to ask for questions. Okay? Scenario 1A, just to show you how we came up with the summary page, page 7, we have in column 2, and again, audience, I apologize, I told you the font sizes are going to get tiny. There you go, column 2, you can't even read them. But that's the assessed valuation of the district. In 1819, it's $289 million. 1920, we have that number from the county, $312.9 million. And then this is where, if you look at column 3, again, this is the 1A scenario. This is the voter. This is where we have to restrict the value, the growth, going forward to that statute. So if you look at column 3, we're growing your tax base by only 0.82%, less than 1% a year for 5 years. And then thereafter, we're only growing it down to 20% of that number, which is 0.16, basically almost flat. Okay? So that's your assessed value growth in column 2. We then report in column 4 and 5 your old debt service. That's your principal and interest. That's the debt service on all your old bonds. You'll see that you have payments ranging from $3.5 to about $4 million over the next 8 to 10 years, and the tax rate impact associated with just your old debt. And then columns 6 through 13 is where we layer in this instance, $50 million. This is scenario 1A, $50 million. And we have 4 bond issues being spread out every 2 or 3 years out to about year 10 for $50 million. $12.5 million each sale every 2 or 3 years. And we also have estimated interest rates that, again, they're just estimates. The current market right now is around 3.5%. We're using 4.75%, 5%, 5.25%, and out in year 10, 5.5%. We don't know where rates are going to be tomorrow versus a year from now. If you have an election in November of 19, your first sale would probably be spring of 2020. That is over a year from now. So we always go higher on interest rate estimates for voter pamphlets, okay, to be conservative. And then we hope to outperform it. We hope the market remains in a relative range and is lower than our estimates, and therefore the tax impacts we showed in the voter pamphlet, we can actually get lower than that going forward, okay? So we size in $50 million, columns 6 through 13. We pay off some bonds in the first 5 years. Those would be bonds associated with anything related to furniture, technology, and equipment, short-term use stuff. Okay, we're restricted by statute. We have to pay that off within 5 years. Everything else, buildings, buses, everything else can be paid off over year 6 through 20. So we have 20-year amortizations for 4 bond deals, and it looks very similar for the $75 million scenario, just larger sizes, and the $100 million scenario, just larger sizes, 4 bond sales each. So then we get to the estimated tax impact, which is, and just for the new bonds, the $50 million, not your old debt, that was already voted on and that's already on the books. So the new bonds, tax impact is in column 15. And if you look at the bottom of column 15, there's a boxed in tax rate at the very bottom. That's the average of all those years' tax rates. That's where we came up with the 88 cents for that summary page. Okay, remember that's scenario 1A. This is using voter pamphlet restricted growth rates, 0.88 cents, $88 for a $100,000 home. So we also then show the combined tax rate, which takes into account the old debt as well. So new debt plus the old debt, and the tax rate estimates are on column 18. Your current bond rate is around $1.27. For $50 million, that tax rate would grow to about $1.61. Now, again, using voter pamphlet restricted growth, okay? But that's how this spreadsheet works. Now, if you don't mind, turn to page 10. Skip a couple pages. Footnotes already mentioned in my messaging. Page 10 is your tax impact. So I mentioned 88 cents, that average tax impact. That's how it would show in the voter pamphlet for $50 million. That 88 cents carries over also in the voter pamphlet, and there's tax impacts for residential property, commercial, and ag and vacant, which is on page 10. So for $50 million, again, using what we have to put in the voter pamphlet for growth, for a $100,000 home, it's $88 a year. We also put in there the average tax valued home in this neck of the woods. It's about $117,000, a little over 100. And so we also report 88 cents on a $117,000 tax valued home. It's about $103 a year, or $8.64 a month. So we like to speak in terms of a $100,000 home, because if you have a $200,000 home, you can just double this amount. If you have a $50,000 home, divide by 2. That's how you can kind of ballpark what this impact would be to you as an individual homeowner. Likewise for commercial property, we report that as well. We reported at $1 million. Commercial properties are valued a lot higher. We reported at $1 million, so then if you have a $2 million commercial property, you can multiply times 2. We also report the average commercial property in Maricopa School District, which is $968,000 and change. So there's the tax impact and the cost with 88 cents for $50 million. And this is the kind of information that would show up in a voter pamphlet right here. Okay? Now, I'm going to go to scenario 1B. That was 1A. Before I go to 1B, any questions on those 4 pages? Okay. I'm almost finished, I promise. 1B, the only difference, really, is in columns 2 and 3. And then the resulting impact in column, in the tax rates in 15 and 18. So column 2, again, is your assessed value. Instead of being restricted to 0.82%, we grew it at 5% for 5 years, and then 3% thereafter. And with those values of growth, go ahead and fast forward to column 15. That's for 50 million. That's the tax rate impact on 50 million per year. But the average is at the bottom of column 15. We average all those years. It's 55 cents. So it's 88 cents using the distorted, in my opinion, 0.82%. It's 55 cents using a more realistic growth projection. And then you can also see the combined tax rate as well in column 18. Instead of going from $1.27 to like $1.61 on the previous scenario, it only grows up to about $1.43. Okay? So that's for 50 million. And then I just repeat this same thing for 75 million and 100 million. And all the real results, I mean, we bring it all forward to page 7. Let me go back to page 7 here. Here's the real impact for each of the scenarios. And again, you're welcome to, if you have questions, to study this, and you can advance questions to staff, and I'll be happy to respond. But at this point, I'm going to pause and see if there's any other questions.
What have you seen in other districts that's worked and what hasn't?
Bond sizes, tax impacts, all the above?
Yeah.
Well, that's hard to say because every community is very different. Buckeye Elementary in November of 18, they're an elementary district, not unified. Okay, so their assessed values, while growing, they're only elementary. So their capacity is less. Everything. They asked the voters for $63 million for 2 or 3 elementary schools, and it didn't pass. It was close. So they're going back out this year for something less than that, about 40 million, somewhere around there. Don't know the number yet. However, you had a lot of bond elections pass, large sizes. Mesa Unified, 300 million. That one flipped. Again, Mesa's a different animal. They've been, they're pretty well built out. Their assessed values are pretty big. Their tax impacts because of that are smaller than yours, even for 300 million, because it spreads to more property. But it wasn't passing the night of the election, but it flipped by Friday. So election cycles in 18, 19, 20 are not going to be easy. That's why it's important to have a solid pro-bond committee. That's not something that, at some point the Citizens Committee, after you call for election, would disband and likely form a political action committee to go out and get it done. But in terms of sizes, it depends on the needs. Buckeye Union High School District, about, I don't know how many years ago, they asked for 98 million of their community for 2 high schools. One they needed right away, and one they thought in year 5 to cover 5 through 10. They were bonding for a 10-year capital improvement plan. That election did not pass. It did not pass by less than 100 votes. They came back out. What they decided to do was lop off that second high school and come back out for, I think it was 50 million or something. And they passed it because it was just for their current needs. Your case is a little different. Your current needs are, everything is pretty instant, as I understand it, the next 3 to 5 years. So as long as you can educate the community about your needs, there you go. The challenge is if you have items where you're planning year 8 to 10, you may want to consider waiting till another election cycle for that kind of stuff in this environment. So I hope I answered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
bond elections historically have passed between 85 to 90%. In November 18, it was around 60%. It was a pretty rough election cycle. Rough, we still passed a lot of bonds, but just not as many. So, but bonds have historically had a great success. And again, last year was interesting with Red for Ed and all the governor's initiatives right before the election cycle. So that was a very tough year.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Any other?
I don't know if it's a question or just my mind exploding. If I remember right, our last bond election that we went for in MUSD was about 04, 05.
I was going to say 06, but it could be 05, yes. 04, 05, 06, somewhere
Yeah,
in that.
somewhere
Yes,
around there
yes.
when we started the conversation.
Yes.
And I'm going to be honest, it was a hard sell.
Right.
It was tough.
Right.
So I know that in order for us to talk about this to the community, I know that let's say we go with 1A and 1B. We have to show that 1A reflects our lack of growth in 2010, 09, basically, when we had to think about closing a school because of the lack of students.
Right.
But show that we are actually scenario 1B, where we are projected and we are today overcrowded.
Right.
So.
And tax values lag what's actually happening.
Correct. Our tax value is going to based on from 08, 09, 010.
The data I just gave you for 1920,
Right.
that reflects what happened 2 years ago.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, think about 2 years forward, all the growth you've had and everything that you have coming, that's going to hit your tax rolls. Even if we had some sort of market correction, recession, whatnot, you have a 2-year window before your assessed values actually go back down. And it's not to say they would go back down like the last recession. That one was the housing market that brought the recession. I mean, this could be something else, and it could be just a soft cycle.
Okay. Overwhelming, but it's nice to be able to having this discussion instead of which school are we going to close. I mean, really.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll tell you, up until last year, I didn't have to give you 6 scenarios. My clients 6 scenarios, I just give them 3.
Right.
Last year was the first year I started doing this because the disparity between the statutory restrictions and growth and what we're really seeing is getting wider and wider.
Yeah. For us, it's gigantic. It's like
yours is a
Grand Canyon.
very big difference. And it's troubling and upsetting. We tried to get legislation put forth in this cycle to use the greater of the 10-year historical average or the 5-year. And if we could use the 5-year, we could then use your 5% growth, right? It didn't. I don't think it's going to get through. We tried to push it using the school groups out there, and we had legislation written up, but I don't think it's going to get through this cycle, unfortunately. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Are bonds and overrides tied together somehow?
No, they're separate, but usually, from what I've noticed, bonds, generally speaking, have a better chance of passing than the overrides do. I don't know if I'm correct on that.
No,
based on
generally speaking, history going back to 1998 when the state took over funding of schools, SFB, right? Just brief history. Every even-numbered year, we had a 100% success rate for bonds.
Yeah.
Every odd year was like 85, 88%, very good still. Overrides were different. They were the opposite. The odd year was better. Now, after the recession, 2010 on, every election cycle is pretty similar. You don't see an even odd year kind of relationship anymore. Bonds historically are, besides last year, around 85%. Capital overrides, district additional assistance overrides, the last 2 cycles, all of them have passed. but they're only like 3 or 4 across the state a year, and they're small. It's not for something like what you're doing. Okay, but that's unusual. Usually, capital overrides have a 50 to 60% pass rate. So, and then M&O overrides historically have been less than bonds as well, somewhere in the 70% success rate.
So this is a tax question, and maybe you're the person or not person. Overrides show up on your primary tax rate, no?
No, anything voter authorized
Is going to be secondary.
including a tax increase, is secondary tax rate.
Secondary.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Primary is really preserved for general fund, formula-driven. You know, you can add adjacent ways, but that's really that one is really kind of formula-driven. Besides adjacent ways and previously DSEG, which is now over to
now secondary.
Right.
Okay. Good information.
Thank you for having me this evening. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for your time. All right, we are on to item 6, consent agenda.
Any discussion, motion to approve?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Lisa?
Joshua Judd,
Aye.
Tori Anderson,
Yes.
Ben Owens,
Aye. Motion carries. All right, very good. On to item 7. HR personal schedule. Mr. Beckett.
Thank you. Vice President Owens, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Lopeman, you have the personnel schedule in front of you tonight. Wanted to highlight the fact that we do have a list of all returning administrators and certified staff members. I do need to make one correction. Number 49 really does not belong on that list. Dr. Lopeman's contract obviously is handled in a different vein than on a list. So if you could remove that one, at least in your thinking. Clarification on number 8, on the far column underneath contract assessment, the initials SSP, that's Smart Schools Plus. That's our phased retirement program that we have. I'll take any questions at this point in time that you would have.
I don't have anything. My laptop just went into restart mode, so.
I don't have any questions. I just want to express my gratitude to all the staff who have returned their contracts so early. I'm humbled that the commitment they have to Maricopa USD, and thank you. It's nice to see this many returning contracts this early in the game.
And if I can make a clarification on this, this is a list that we're proposing for issuing contracts.
Okay.
So they'll be getting their contracts actually on Friday. Okay. We are highly anticipatory that we're going to see a great many of those people returning their contracts, though.
Thank you for the clarification.
No, thank you. Appreciate the question.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I may?
Yes, please.
Mr. Beckett, with your, actually, I think you have to approve it. Did you approve it?
Yes,
We have to approve
it
it first. Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Lisa?
Joshua Judd,
Aye.
Tori Anderson,
Yes.
Ben Owens,
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beckett. Dr. Lopen.
Well, Vice President Owens and members of the board, with your approval tonight of our personnel schedule, you have approved the hire of our business director. So I want to introduce Mr. Jacob Harmon. If you could please stand. It is with great enthusiasm that I present to you Mr. Jacob Harmon. Mr. Harmon comes to us most recently from the Ray School District in Kearney, Arizona. He's the business director in Ray School District. Previous to that, he was in Sackatone and Florence School Districts doing a variety of functions and jobs and roles within the business office there. And he is in a smaller business office by comparison to Maricopa in Ray District as well. The benefit to us that comes with Mr. Harmon's experience is that when When you work in a small district, you wear a lot of hats. You get a lot of experience. You have complete boots on the ground understanding of all those roles and functions, and that's a part of what he is bringing to Maricopa Unified School District. You know what? At one point, he was a bus driver when he was even younger than he is right now. And so he brings great experience and knowledge of what so many of our staff members are working through every day. So I want to welcome Mr. Harmon to our Maricopa team and look forward to your service here along with us. Yeah. Welcome.
Welcome aboard. All right, on to 7B, discussion and possible approval of first reading of updated policy DJE to increase the maximum dollar amount of an individual job order for a job order contract and construction service to $1 million to $2.5 million.
I don't have any questions. I thought the presentation was very clear. I know that it's needed, and this is very archaic since we haven't had any growth and haven't had to do any building, so it seems fit that we obviously haven't visited this policy. The only change I would suggest is on page 2. In the paragraph, the very last sentence, there's a paragraph that says online bidding. The sentence right before that, it says the maximum dollar amount to an individual job order for a job order contracting consultation service shall be $1 million. I think that needs to be changed to $2.5 million to reflect the amount that's in the parentheses or as determined by the board. See what I'm saying? See where the
actual word spelling out.
The words need to reflect what's in the parentheses. Does that make sense? So it's in the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th paragraph, the very last sentence where we're changing the parentheses from 1 million to 2.5 million. The words need to reflect that change.
Mm-hmm. Good catch. I didn't see that.
I didn't see that.
I actually do read these things, which is crazy, but
Right, it was a test.
it was a test, yeah. So that means I get to go home early? We're done? No, I'm just kidding.
Right, as soon as we finish, you get to walk out that door.
That's the only change I have, and I would, if there's no other discussion, I would motion that we approve extending the JOC from 1 million to 2.5 million and change the policy.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Lisa?
Joshua Judd,
Aye.
Tori Anderson,
Yes?
Ben Owens,
Aye. Very good. Thank you. Motion passed. 7C, discussion and possible approval of the MUSD strategic plan. Dr. Lopman.
I believe you would find a copy of our strategic plan there at your desk. This is a historical and forecasts what will happen over the next 4 months, and we're going to find ourselves in this position again in July, adopting the even more complete version of our strategic plan. Part of this this document is illustrative of where we are regarding some of the transitions that we're going through right now. So you will see that this has mention of establishing baselines, researching, and investigating. That's what we have spent some of our time this year doing, in addition to the functions of implementing new materials in math and in ELA and reading, in addition to being in the 2nd or 3rd year of our assessment systems. In our ESS departments, we are implementing certain things, certain material programs right now, but then have already begun investigating for next year. You will also see that we're establishing baselines regarding perceptive data of our students, perceptive data of our parents, and our staff, regarding the service delivery, of each of our departments. And we have historically delivered a survey that is in alignment with the standards and core values of our evaluation programs. And so with some minor changes, that will continue to be the tool through which we establish baseline information so that we may chart our progress over the course of the next 5 or 6 years. And it is also a very tangible way to hold me accountable. So this is our version of the strategic plan. What can I answer?
I don't have any questions just because I was part of the strategic plan process, and I know that I was happy to see that our teachers and our community members, our city leaders, our police department, everybody was actually a part of putting these goals and these basic ideas in place. So this obviously isn't new information, so,
Right.
but I cherish the fact that we actually had complete community input. And so I value this document. I know it's a moving, living document, and it obviously will reflect from year to year, but I think it's a solid set of goals that are still broad enough that we can encompass everything that we need to do as a district. So I like them. Are these up on, oh, they don't even know what I'm talking about, the goals? Do I need to say them out loud?
We would love for you to say them out loud. I know what they.
I just know that when they're out in
memorized.
TV land, they
Yeah.
don't even know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So the goals are, number one is every student graduates prepared to create, innovate, lead, and succeed. Goal 2 is every student has access to and equity, which I think is an important term, and excellent educational services, resources, and programs. Goal 3 is organizational culture that prioritizes people over programs and invests in the support of students and staff, which is important for retaining our staff, which we know we've been striving to do. And then number 4 is community pride through excellent customer service, sound business practices, open and effective communication, and safe and attractive facilities. I think there are 4 solid goals. My own personal opinion.
Yeah, and we've discussed this. Obviously, if the community isn't aware, as Tori stated, a lot of discussion has gone into this previously. We know what's in there, and I think everyone was satisfied when we sat down and had the discussion. All the board members shared their thoughts and wanted to make sure that everyone brings something different to the table, so there's all different focuses that we'll have, and we'll mention those. And Dr. Loatman was gracious in terms of listening to our requests and incorporating those into the plan. So it's been several months of work and effort from different members of the community and the board, and I think we're happy with the product.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a great looking product, and really does a really good job of helping to define where we go and how we get there.
I think that's the most accurate description. It's our roadmap. And I want to credit the cabinet members again for their diligent and tireless work on this document, and looking towards their departments and the schools as well for detail and information. And while I had hoped that tonight's approval would come with fireworks and, like a band and stuff like that, the routine nature of our conversation reflects the frequency with which we've discussed this. The fact that it's been such a common conversation since August. It's somewhat anticlimactic, but it is truly our call to action. It's our promise. It describes our product and our promise. And I look to growing as a district with this, the support and detail in this document. And I appreciate your feedback all along the way.
I do know band leaders that probably
I know,
could
we
have
could
worked
do
that out
We
for us.
Well, and Dr. Loatman, thank you as a board member, because I know that we kind of gave this task to you like before you even started. And And so it's been really a labor of love, I know, on your part, and to say, look, you've already done something that the board has asked of you already. So thank you for that. I also think this document truly reflects what MUSD is, which means we are staff and community driven. And I think that that's important.
Awesome.
Oh, there we go, the fireworks.
Vice Mayor Wade.
Vice
of
Mayor Wade's
course.
got us covered.
A true public
yeah,
servant.
There you go. But it is a reflection of the way we respect our staff, our students, and our community. So there's no other discussion. I would like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Lisa?
Joshua Judd.
Aye.
Tori Anderson.
Yes.
Ben Owens.
Aye. Very good. Motion passes.
Yippee!
It is 8:07 p.m. and we are adjourned.
Awesome.
Thank you.